Patrick.
I'm Freddie.
And I'm Ty.
And I'm Grant. According to the United Nations, since 2011, more than 400,000 Syrian people have lost their lives due to the violent civil war raging in the country. Over 17,000 of them were children. That's 17,000 dead kids. That's almost as many people as live here in Ennis. Yet, most people I know have no idea about anything that's going on in Syria right now. Today I'd like to change that. I'm going to share with you some disturbing facts that I have gathered from reading articles from CNN, USA Today, and Mercy Corps. The war in Syria is so far the deadliest conflict in the 21st century and requires increased international attention to save the lives of Syrian people. I'm going to explain why Syria is at war in the first place, what actions have been taken by the international community to lessen the impact of war on the Syrian people, and what I believe can be done to put an end to the bloodshed in Syria. First, some background on the Syrian civil war and who's been fighting it. The war began because of widespread dissatisfaction with the Syrian government. Bashar al-Assad has been president of Syria since his father, former President Hafez al-Assad, died in June of 2000. As soon as Assad took office, unemployment rates skyrocketed, poverty rose, and the Syrian government took a more authoritarian approach to governing their country, which means civil rights in the country basically vanished overnight. These people went from having a decent life to having terrible lives. Now, in 2007, Syrians had become a little bit fed up with the government, so they started protesting in the streets. Now, we're talking protests here. We're not talking about riots or anything violent. These people were protesting the things that their government were doing to them. The Assad regime did not like that. According to an article from CNN, Assad had dozens of protesters killed just for protesting. By this point, the Syrians had begun to really get angry. They moved from protesting to armed and open rebellion. Many anti-government coalitions were formed, but they could not organize together into a single fighting force because of differences in religion and ideology. By 2012, jihadist extremists had begun to move to the country just to fight in the civil war. These are people from Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, just bad people that nobody needs in their country for any reason, let alone to fight a war against their government. As a result, other countries in the region started to become involved in the conflict and basically made it a proxy war. Iran started sending troops and supplies to the Assad regime, and Jordan, Turkey, and the Gulf states responded by sending their own guns and their own money to back the rebels. The escalation of conflict in the region by other powers drew the attention of the United States and opened what would be a new and bloodier chapter in the Syrian civil war. By 2013, the United States began to train and arm rebels in Syria. Now, this is not a good idea. We've done this in the past. It's never really worked out too well, but we did it anyways. After this, the Assad regime launched a chemical attack against its own civilians, killing many, many people. This garnered outrage among the international community. Everybody was mad at this country for gassing their own civilians. Meanwhile, Russia simply suggests that Assad surrenders his stockpile of chemical weapons, which he claims to have done. But we'll see. By 2014, some of the foreign-backed rebels broke away from the group and became what you know as ISIS. The new faction began murdering civilians and gaining territory across Iraq and Syria. Little over a year after becoming involved in the conflict in the first place, the United States begins to bomb ISIS, who they helped create in the first place. So now, the United States is involved in the war, but they're not helping with Assad. They're bombing ISIS. ISIS is now the #1 enemy in Syria, not the murderous Assad regime. Russia then decides to send supplies and aircraft to the Assad regime with the guise of helping with ISIS. But in actuality, all Russia does is start bombing anti-government rebels. They went to this country to interfere in a war that they had no business interfering on, and they're on the wrong side. They're trying to help a regime become just terrible, and kill their own civilians, and Russia is directly involved with this. This new Russian support, Assad took the city of Aleppo, the last rebel stronghold, in 2014, and basically kicked the rebels out and ruined their last hope of survival as a nation. In April 2017, Assad once again gasses his own civilians, hoping that the U.S. response would be limited like it was that last time. This time, the United States sends Tomahawk cruise missiles to a Syrian airbase and destroys many of the things that they used to gas their civilians in the first place. Now that you're up to speed on the conflict, I'd like to discuss some possible solutions to the problem in Syria. Russia must be held accountable for its actions. They have supported the Assad regime in murdering their own civilians and directly aided the Syrian government. Russian forces were present at the airbase that launched the chemical attack in 2017, so they cannot deny involvement or knowledge of the fact that it actually happened. International pressure needs to be put on Russia to get them to stop assisting the Assad regime and to stop helping them fight against the rebels. The United States, although having good intentions, has not been successful in attempts made to help the Syrian people. The practice of arming rebels to fight against oppressive government regimes has not really worked out too well in the past and has led to the formation of groups like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. It's not a responsible way to earn a military victory. It needs to be stopped, and we need to learn our difference, or we need to learn our lesson. Instead of arming rebels, the United States and any other country that has the means to do so needs to start establishing a military presence in Syria with the ultimate goal of overthrowing the Assad regime and helping these people to get their own country back. Assad has committed war crimes against his own people, and it's of global importance that he be stopped. We cannot let people like this run countries in our world. The United Nations has a duty to prevent situations like this from happening, but has so far done little to actually help Syrian people. We cannot stand idly by while these civilians are murdered by their own government. Many will argue that the Syrian civil war is just Syria's problem, but this is simply untrue. According to USA Today, European and Middle Eastern countries have seen a massive influx of over 4.8 million refugees since the start of the war. These people don't want to be refugees. They don't want to come to your country. They want their own country, and they want to be able to live in it freely without fear of their own government. So clearly, Syria is in need of help, and it's in the best interest of the international community to act and make a difference in this. The Syrian civil war is a result of heinous actions taken by the Syrian government against its own people under the rule of Bashar al-Assad. International attempts have been made to stop the bloodshed, but ultimately have been ineffective. Continuation of the conflict under current policy will do nothing to help the Syrian people, and serious changes need to be made in how foreign governments deal with these situations. Many thousands of lives have already been lost because of this conflict, and many more surely will die if something isn't done. Not only is it in our best interest to step in and stop this bloodshed, but it's the right thing to do. Thank you.